All right, so welcome back to the second week of the hiring series, where we're going to talk about how to hire your first SDR. So this is going to be your first salaried employee, especially in the sales realm slash real estate realm here. And then we'll go through the slides, kind of explaining like the importance of it, why you should hire somebody, and then ultimately showing you like how to actually maneuver through different softwares, like Indeed. Like we'll show you how to post a job, how to work it, and it's super, super simple now. And we'll kind of go through of like why it's super important to have somebody on your team that does this. Because a lot of you guys are just cold calling initially and sending out initial text messages to the automations, but a lot of you guys aren't actually doing the right amount of follow-ups and not following the right cadence. And you'll see in the next slide here, you'll see that 73% of leads in a typical wholesaling CRM are never contacted past the third attempt. So that'll be your cold call one, your couple of text messages. Maybe you try to call them again the second day, and that lead just goes into a discovery pile, right? How many guys have discovery pipelines that are just absolutely massive? Like, I look at ours sometimes and I'm like, holy cow, like how do we have 1,000 leads in discovery? And that's what an SDR or a lead manager actually focuses on while you have virtual assistants doing the bulk cold calling or cold calling the actual data syndicate data, whatever type of data you're doing. You have virtual assistants that are doing initial screenings. And with virtual assistants, with the cold calling side, you can get through a ton of more volume. And then you actually have your ISAs or lead managers going through those appointments, taking all your inbound calls. Like those are the people that are doing all that type of stuff. And you'll see like all the different types of information that you'll get regarding what a lead manager would do, right? And then the second thing is after the 73% of leads that don't get contacted after a third time, you also have the speed to lead window. So you guys have seen any of my trainings about speed to lead. The 5 minute rule is like if you call or contact a lead post 5 minutes out, you have an 80% less chance of converting that lead. So you have that lead manager follow the rules of getting back to leads that come through either inbound or whatever the case may be within 5 minutes. And at the end of the day, if you follow the system, if you hire the right person with grit, one salaried setter run on a system eliminates both these problems. And that's why it's super important to actually understand the importance of a lead manager. So in this 5 minute module, we'll knock this out in like less than 70 minutes. Um, the slide portion will be real quick, and then we'll kind of go through like the tactical Indeed training. But here's what we'll cover, right? What the actual role is, right? So you can identify what they actually have to do because what I've noticed in the last, 4 or 5 years of wholesaling is what I noticed is that a lot of you guys don't understand the difference between a cold caller, a lead manager, and a closer. So last week we talked about the virtual assistants, which are more focused on cold calling. And today we're going to be focused more on the actual lead managing side, right? We're going to learn about comp structure. So you'll probably hear today a very unique way of how we actually pay setters. It's not the generic, base salary plus commission. Like there's a combination of it, but we're going to talk about a more unique way to keep that person more hungry and more engaged. And we'll show you real math of like how this stuff works. The hiring process, the overall hiring process of like how to hire people, where to find these people. And we're going to talk about something very interesting about this. And then the last two is more of the onboarding. So when you do actually hire somebody, how do you get that person ready to be in the real estate community and to actually understand what you need in your business? And then just the overall management, the rhythm, the cadences of meetings, and like how to track things. So start with module one, the role and the scorecard. So defining the role is defining what is winning for you, right? So everything goes downstream. So if you have the foundation of what you're actually looking for, it actually goes down to how you pay them with the comps, how do you manage the scripts, and then how you ultimately manage that person, right? So if you are looking for a closer, you would manage that person differently, just like how you would probably manage a virtual assistant differently than a closer, right? And I know some of you guys have already interviewed one of my old cold callers when I first started, Martin, and please let me know in the recording or in the chat or in the school if you guys end up hiring him. He's a really good kid, right? But you would manage him a lot differently than a salaried employee. All right. So the job in one sentence, right? Turn old, warm, and inbound leads into qualified appointments that actually show, right? So booking appointments is great. The AI does all that stuff too, but the whole point is to make sure that if you do book an appointment for your closer, that that seller actually shows up for the call, right? Or shows up for the appointment because nothing demoralizes a closer more than getting an appointment booked and then the seller doesn't actually like pick up the phone or show up for the call. So that's like their number one job is to screen the seller and also make sure that they actually show up on the call. So they're doing the reminders. If you don't have automations, they're the ones like texting, "Hey, are you good for this call today?" That's what they're doing, right? So if the setter does not close, so that's one of the most important things is your setter should not be closing guys, right? Your setter should be focusing on just qualifying and getting them on the calendar. The setter doesn't negotiate. And if you blur that line between hiring a mini closer, how many guys do you hire that you end up hiring a cold caller? Or no, you end up hiring an acquisition manager, which is the person that has to actually close deals, right? And what is most demoralizing if you tell a closer, yes, you're a closer, you have the opportunity to make this much commission, but you're going to have to cold call lists. They're going to quit in like 90 days, or you end up firing them in 90 days because they don't actually do the dialing, right? We've seen that so many times in our business where we hire a closer and they find out that they don't have leads coming in every day and they have to actually do manual labor. And that's not what closers do, especially the ones that get paid a lot that are very good at their job. They want their calendars filled and they want those appointments to be set. Okay. So these are the 3 minutes that don't move, right? So if these three numbers don't move, the role isn't working. Okay. So speed. Do you have new or reactivated leads that get the first touch as fast as humanly possible? Same day at a minimum, but you want to get it under 5 minutes. So it's either that you have a lead manager do it or an AI do it. And then here's the most important part about having a lead manager is the volume, right? 5 touches or more in the first week. And when you guys watch this training, when you guys watch the recording, it's I want you guys to ask yourself like, are you actually calling these leads like or texting these leads more than 5 times in the first week? And the answer is usually no, right? So that's super, super important when it comes to volume and why a lead manager is so important. So your automations, your text messages cover a handful of those touches, right? If you look at the SMS campaigns with Lead OS, you're touching a seller 5, 6 times throughout the month with cold text, but you don't want to abuse them with text messages because that violates TCPA. But if you're not calling them, you're not touching them. And especially if they're inbound. So if you're running ads, if you're running email marketing, if you're running SMS appointments and they're replying to you and saying that they want to talk to you, especially inbound, you have full right to like contact them a million times, right? So some of the best companies, if someone filled out an ad on their Facebook ads or Google ads, whatever the case may be, they're getting contacted 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a week. Like they are aggressively calling you. Double dial in the morning, double dial in the afternoon, and then they'll double dial you the next day. They are putting in the volume and they have full-time salary employees doing that. Okay. Now, number three, this is what's super important for your acquisition managers is the show rate. So as time goes on, this number should be trending up, right? The percentage of set appointments that actually show should improve every single month through training, through automations that you guys build, through understanding the psychology of how to set appointments. Like that's what actually it gets improved over time. Everything else is grit. Okay. And we'll talk about this like in the slide decks here. So these are what setters actually do. Okay, this is super important. Is like there's 4 behaviors and they have to be repeated every single day, and you have to document this stuff every single day, right? The cadence, how many times you call, you text, and you email old and new leads, right? Using this cadence, and like we've given you this cadence in the SOPs of like how aggressive you should be like talking to these sellers and how often. That does not change. That never changes. So hammer the fresh inbounds, right? So if inbound leads come in or people respond to your messages or emails, this is the most aggressive part of the sequence here. is that you are trying to book an appointment as close to like today as possible. Because if even if you reach them within 5 minutes, the speed to lead stuff, if you book an appointment for next week, that person most likely will forget about you. Like the goal is to book appointment same day, next day, or whatever, because the longer it is to take for you to get to that call, the less motivated and the less like remembering they're gonna do. Like then you got to be like, hey, like have you guys ever talked to a seller? And you're like, yo, we had a booked appointment today, like about selling your property. They're like, yo, who are you? Once they say that, it's too late. Like you gotta like do that awkward, like, oh, it's Tim from Top Gap Homes. Like you don't remember? Oh yeah, I get a lot of text messages, man. And we see that all the time. So like you want to get them on the phone as soon as possible. Okay. When your setter is talking to a seller, don't do a 30-minute process call. That's not your job to dissect the seller, figure out the psychology. You are literally going to qualify them as fast as possible, and then they want to book them onto a call for one of your closers, right? Your acquisition managers. The acquisition managers are the ones that are going to do the discovery process, ask them why they're selling, dig into the motivation, and then eventually negotiate with them. The setter does not do that. Okay. They're getting the initial, hey, what's the price? What's the motivation? What's the timeline here? And like, cool, like I think we can help you. Maybe just depends on the options that we kind of have depending on your property when the property specialist talks to you. Then we'll kind of figure out what options you have. Okay. And then last but not least, the last behavior is you want to log everything in the CRM, right? Every time they talk to a seller, they should put some notes in and tag with the right tags. So everyone knows that that seller's been contacted two, three, four different times. So here's the numbers, the KPIs for your setters. This is a part of the sales scorecard that we have. So this feeds directly into the sales scorecard. So we obviously have marketing KPIs and then we also have sales KPIs. So sales KPIs, this is basically like right here for a setter, the dials that they make every day, how many combos they have, right? So for us, is anything over 1 to 2 minutes, right? You obviously don't want to have, you don't want to count a conversation when someone talks to you for 20 seconds and hangs up. So usually what a lot of wholesale operators do is when they're counting their metrics, they're saying that they've talked to you for over a minute. That's usually like the best and easiest way to track it. You can track it however you want, but that's kind of how we do it. Obviously, appointment set. And then here's the most important, right? You can set 30 appointments, but if two people show, like what does that tell you? There's probably something wrong with your process. There's probably something wrong with the way that your setter is setting the appointment and like not getting the right information, not getting the emails, stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you're tracking the actual show rates. And then obviously here's like the more sales metrics, the contracts closed, the show rate percentage, and then the lead to close, which is contracts divided by leads worked. That shows how your overall funnel is. So if you're getting 100 leads coming in divided by how many contracts you get, that will show you the percentage of, hey, how many leads do you close, the percentage of those leads that you actually close. So if you're closing 1% of your leads, that's probably it depends on how many leads you're getting, right? So if you're getting 1,000 leads, but you close 1%, that's only what I don't know. I'm really bad at math, but that just shows you that your funnel's kind of jacked up. Like either like your initial text messages, maybe your phone calls aren't really going through for your setter, stuff like that to show like how healthy your actual business is. So when you're reading the scorecard, half the numbers measure the work ethic. Okay. So the first half of diagnosing how your setter is the actual work ethic, right? This is stuff that's like actual grit and motivation. How many dials they're doing, right? Which then feeds into probably more sets and then more conversations. So if you have a setter that's only calling 100 dials a day, that's probably like not the best in my opinion. Now, setters obviously aren't cold callers, like, but the amount of work that they put in, like if they're putting 4 to 5 hours a day, like that's a pretty good day, right? So this is a coachable human. So a coachable human, so if you hire someone that's very motivated and very open to this type of work and that wants to make a living off, working super hard, this is not coachable, right? You can hire two people, one person just hates doing this, doesn't feel motivation, but the other guy you hire is super motivated and wants to call 4, 5, 6 hours a day. This is the hustle, right? This portion is your hustle metric. And if they're not moving the needle towards getting more dials, more conversations, this is a hustle problem, and then you have to manage it directly. You do not want to wait to fix this problem because it's a hustle problem. So I really want to hammer that home. If they're not, if they don't, if they show that they don't have the work ethic, you can easily replace them. You don't want to keep them in your business like 30, 60, 90 days. You want to get rid of it. The second one is your skill. This one specifically is something that you can't like come to a quick conclusion. Like you have to give them time and training. So on average, this takes 60 to 90 days to develop into being a very skilled setter. So after 60, 90 days, if their stats are still flat, then you probably have a coaching problem. So if they're putting in the dials, like, so I want to put this into some perspective here, that if they're putting in the dials, they're putting in the hours, they're putting in the work, and after 90 days, they're still not doing well in terms of setting appointments and stuff, it's most likely going to be a coaching problem within your business. And that you would have to fix the script and you would have to practice with them. So, like if you were a sales manager, a sales director, or an owner without those two different positions in your company, you would have to train them yourselves. And that's the big ticket, right? Is to understand where they are deficient in. And you want to rank your setters by both metrics, not just one. So obviously, you're going to grade them by effort, and then you're going to grade them by skill. And then you're going to figure out there if they're going to be a good fit for you guys long term. Guardrails. So at the end of the day, you need to treat your business like a business that wants to sustain for 10 plus years, right? Like you don't want to have a business to just, you know, wreck and pillage the entire list and just get a really bad brand. We're about respecting DNC and opt-outs. Like we do not violate that. Once a seller like yells at us or says whatever, just respect it. Just be like, cool, no worries, my bad for bothering you. Mark them on your list DNC and just move on. Okay, no exceptions to this. We don't do harassment style calling. Persistence does not equal pestering. Okay, they're not the same thing. Persistence is that you're following the system. Hey, let's double dial day one, double dial again in the evening, double dial again one time the next day, and then one call per day for like the rest of the week, right? But triple dialing them 4 times a day for the next like 2 weeks, that's pestering. Okay. So you want to follow a cadence, you don't want to abuse it. Because once you piss someone, can you imagine like someone was calling you 4 times a day for the entire week? Like that's just crazy. Like I wouldn't want to do business with you at that point. But like, bro, like you're way too aggressive, dude. Like you're kind of like ruining my day, right? So long-term reputation beats the short-term desperation. That's the name of the game. The name of the game is to market for a decade, right? Not to market for a couple months. And you want to act like that as a business owner. So let's get to the comps because I know this is starting to get like the more interesting part of the training is how you can pay people, right? Most owners break their setter before they even start, and that's because the pay, right? Here's how to design pay that drives the exact behavior you want. So if you guys can't afford paying a setter a salary, especially in the real estate community of wholesaling, you don't deserve to have a setter, right? Make money first, grind a little bit, and then you can hire somebody. But think about it this way. How many people do you know? And I know a lot of you guys in the community have hired setters on commission base only. So here's the problem with that. So imagine you hire somebody and their job is to cold call people, their job is to grind and do all this shit for 6 hours a day. Like if you guys have cold calls for 6 hours a day, like that's a very hard, demoralizing job and not everyone can do it, right? Some people can, some people can't. And can you imagine that they're having no income coming in while they're doing this for you for months on end? When I first started investing, I had a salary or I had a commission-based guy and the dude was a dog. If you're talking about the metrics of grit, he was doing 6 hours a day and he was doing it full time. Like he quit his job, all this stuff. And I felt really bad as an operator, as an owner. Actually, I wouldn't say I was an operator back then, but as an owner, I felt super bad because he was calling 6 hours a day and he wasn't making any money. Because here's the thing, like as a setter, you revolve around, especially commission based only, you rely on the data, you rely on the owner's coaching, and then you also rely on the closer's ability to close. And it's not like a coaching program or something like that where if somebody pays for a coaching program, that setter gets paid instantly. In wholesale, you get a contract and then you have to sell the deal or flip the deal. So there's a whole another component with real estate that can be super demoralizing if you can't close deals and actually make money. And that's why so many setters actually quit like 2, 3 months on average. I think the average is like 3 months if you're lucky. And you're now back to square one and you're doing all the cold calling yourself. So here's what I recommend. This is what we pay our guys. And we also add a little bonus, right? So the base for a lead manager should be $2,000. Now, you can do 1K a month, you could do whatever you want. 2K is for us a monthly reliable floor. So if we absolutely shit the bed, it lets them focus on calling, not on paying the rent, right? And I know some of you, I see some people in here. Some people don't can't afford 2K a month in rent, right? The California people. I know some guys are in Chicago, right? There's different people in different markets in this community, and 2K is still a lot of money, or still a little bit of money, right? So we'll talk about that in the next slide. So 2K a month is their base. That is enough to survive in most places, right? You can buy some ramen, whatever the case may be. If you maybe have an 18, 19-year-old kid that makes no money, and then you give them a $10 to $20 per show. Okay. So this is like a nice incentive for them. So per qualified appointment that shows up, not like, hey, I booked 30 appointments and none of them showed. They're incentivized to get that person to show up to the call. Now, there's processes that they can follow to increase the show rate, and you want to help them out as much as possible. But the whole point is to drive quality and not a bunch of noise. And you can be very specific. So, like in our agreement that we have with this setter, it's very formal. Like, hey, this is your base of 2K. You also get a $10 to $20 bonus per show. And in that contract, you want to explain what a qualified seller is, right? Like a qualified seller is not somebody that asks for $1 million for their house and their house is worth 200 grand. So you got to set that parameter of like what is actually a qualified set. Also, the next thing is you also want to make sure that they freaking show up to the call. If they don't show up to the call, like that's not a qualified lead, so we're not going to pay you. So that's what you want to make sure, right? So that's how you kind of set that quality barrier for that setter. So you're not paying $20 a set. You know what I mean? You want to add some left and right limits to that. But this actually adds up. The 10 to 20 shows, like I mean, me and Jake, my partner for the email agency, we generated like 64 leads for somebody with emails and ads in the last like 60 days. And can you imagine if a setter was just like ripping sets for that acquisition manager? Like they're making an extra $1,000 a month just off setting those appointments, right? So at the end, this is up to you. There's different structures out there. There's a 2K base, 5% set commission when you close, right? There's so many different ways to do it, but how we recommend would do is obviously you have the per show bonus, which helps the setter incentivize them to make sure that they're really screening quality, making sure that person shows up to the acquisition call. And then if we do close that deal, they'll get 1 to 2% revenue kicker on top. So you can see how this stuff starts stacking up for these setters and why they're so motivated to actually come to work and serve you as a business owner, right? So here's some quick math in case you're like, damn, dude, like I'm paying these guys a lot of cash. And here's the thing, 2 extra deals a month. So the goal is if you bring a setter in and you have no setter right now, the goal is to bring at least 2 extra deals a month, right? And the setter pays for themselves 9 times over. And here's kind of the math. So if I'm paying you $2,000 a month and you have 8 bookings, so 8 appointments set at 20 bucks, they're getting paid an extra $640. And then we close 2 deals at $15,000 per deal with a 2% kicker. Like this is like all max dollar, right? $20 set, 2% revenue kicker. That's an extra 600 bucks. And in the entire month, we're paying them 3,200 for 40 bucks. That's not a lot of money if you really think about it. And that's why we don't have the five, like, that's why we have the show bonus, because the show bonus actually makes it to a point where the person can actually like make a livable income or else they're going to quit. Like you got to think long-term game, right? So if you're spending 3,200 bucks a month and you could pay them a little more, think about if you're paying them $15,000 per deal, or on average your assignment fee is 15 grand, which is the market average now, is you be making 9.3x return. So you paying a setter $3,300 a month can bring you an extra $30,000 of revenue. Would you say that's worth it? I would say yes, right? We've seen the math. Most setters can close, if you're closing 5 deals a month, this guy's getting paid $4,500 a month, and you're bringing in, 50, 60K of revenue, you're 10xing. Well worth it. Well worth it. Especially those leads are probably going to be leads that you don't close without that setter. Okay. So three rules that make the comp work. Get any of these wrong and the structure breaks. Okay, these are just easy rules to explain when you're talking to the setter, when you're interviewing the setter. This is just very easy stuff. So variable pay is locked behind minimal activities. So basically, yeah, you get paid all this stuff, but if you miss the floor, so you can actually set a goal. So, hey, every day I want you to work at least, I want you to make $150 a day or $200 a day. If you don't do that every day and you get dinged for not making your quotas, you do not get the no-show bonus that week. Okay? The pay rewards the system, not the expectation. So if you don't meet the quotas for the week or for the day, whatever, your penalty is you lose that $200-300 of bonus. Because remember, it's a bonus structure, right? So remember, this is a per show bonus. So this is not like guaranteed in their contract in terms of pay. They have to earn this based off what rules you make. So this is what incentivizes them to actually keep going. Okay? There's no cap, okay? Don't cap it. Capping is like the worst thing you could do. Like if you have an absolute killer or a monster and they're making more money than a closer for some of the months, dude, let them keep doing it. That just means you're making more money. And if you guys aren't closing deals, then it's more of your acquisition person's problem. Like, dude, you're not closing these appointments that this dude's setting, right? Like, if they're going hard in the paint and they're setting you 10 appointments a week, like, don't cap it, keep paying them, right? Like that, like you want to keep that person there forever. And last but not least, if you ask somebody what your pay structure is and they're confused about it and they can't tell you in 30 seconds what their pay is, it's wrong. Confusion kills the hunger. Simple math. Let them write it down and read it aloud on day one so they understand what their comp is and what their job is. If their pay is too complicated, then no one's going to do it. Okay? It's too complicated. All right. Here's the nitty-gritty stuff, right? How to actually hire, like where to fish, how to find them, and different places, and how to audition, which is the hiring or the interview process. So you want to get this right. If you get the interview process is so freaking important. Like I would rather spend 10 hours, 20 hours finding that one person that I think is the right fit than just rush and hire and then you're wasting 60, 70, 80, 90 days with the wrong person. And what does that tell you? If you have the wrong person for 90 days, you're losing a lot more money than just time. So just take your time in the hiring process and do not skip any steps in the hiring process. Okay. Who do I look for a setter? I look for somebody that is super confident on the phone, American, right? I don't like virtual assistants for this. Some of you guys have experienced good stuff with a setter that's foreign, but not me. I like the Americans. And remember, guys, they are not closers. So you only want someone that actually can set appointments, and that's all you need. Okay? US based, neutral accent. Sellers must trust the voice, right? You don't want someone that sounds like a telemarketer when they're reaching out to them. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Filipinos, Indians, whatever the case may be. Setters need to build trust. They set the tone for the entire process, right? A VA is cool. Like, hey, I work for a company. I'm just generating leads. They can have an accent. But the first person they see from Top Cap Homes needs to be someone that's clearly spoken and can build some rapport for our closers. Okay. Phone comfortable. What does that mean? They're able to sit for 4 hours or more on the phone without burning out. This is a very important thing because you need to make sure that they understand what you're asking them to do. That's why you don't want to bring on a closer because closer's mentality, like if you brought me onto your company and you weren't filling my or you weren't filling my calendar with booked appointments, I'm quitting. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, like, if you ever interviewed a real closer, like guys who work for these big commercial sales companies, whatever the case may be, they'll ask you how many leads do you get per month and how do you get them? And a lot of times, if you're not running inbound, like they don't want to work for you. But you can work the first to market model with a closer if you have the process that we're telling you how to build now, right? Texting, calling, and having a setter to book those appointments. It's the same shit. Okay. These are the backgrounds that translate into a good setter. Did they work at a call center? I literally hired this nice lady back in the day. She worked as a call center when she was in her early 20s. Now she's like 40 something. Her kids are grown. She just needed some extra income and wanted to do something in the house. And she was a great fit. She worked with us for over a year, and she's made a pretty good living working with us. Now she retired from the game after that because it's pretty tedious work. But call center, they worked in collections, they worked in any sort of SDR role from tech, appointment setting, customer service. These are all great fits for your business. So when you guys are searching people's resumes on Indeed or whatever, you can actually search for these type of jobs, and they usually translate in the appointment setting world. But at the end of the day, for a setter, the grit beats your skill. The grit beats your pedigree, right? They have to follow the script and they have to grind. They do not need any real estate experience when they join. So do not look for somebody specifically with real estate experience. I think, in my opinion, hiring people in the real estate community is not a good move. Like some of my best setters, my best closers came from other industries. Um, because real estate is teachable. You can teach anybody comps. You can teach anybody the sales process. You can teach anybody what the different roofs are, right? And on our onboarding process, what you'll see in the inner circle, we have a few different modules of us taking our old lead managers through the onboarding process, is that there's literally a whole day, 2, 3 hours of their workday is learning what real estate is and what wholesaling is and like what a purchase agreement is. Like we teach our new people what real estate is, so this is not needed at all. Okay. And at the end of the day, remember, you are installing a qualify, then handoff role. Okay. I like to stress this a lot. You are not finding a closer, right? A qualifier who feeds your closer the cleanest possible calendar. So if I'm only giving you 3 appointments a day, I want to make sure those 3 appointments are dialed in. That's my setter's mentality. Okay. Where to hire? This is a really it doesn't have to be rocket science, especially these are entry level positions. You're not looking for C-suite or directors. You can find people on LinkedIn. You can find people on Indeed. You can find people on ZipRecruiter. I use Indeed, and I think Indeed's the best. And I'll do a walkthrough today, real quick, on how to use Indeed and how easy it is. Okay. And you want to post titles like appointment setter, inside sales rep, which is an ISA. So if you guys don't know what ISA is, that's what that is, or lead nurture specialist. I would avoid SDR. So I know the training is how to find an SDR, but SDR is more of a tech role. So if you guys work in California, like these are usually your tech salesmen. So you want to make sure that you're specifically just saying that you're an appointment setter or an ISA. Okay, those are like usually your thing. There are also job posting descriptions that we give you in the hiring section of the inner circle where you can actually just copy paste the prompt and you can just post it on Indeed. Channel two is local talent pools. So this is super important here. So you'll see, oh, I'm skipping ahead. So target tier two or tier three metros. If you guys don't know what that is basically if you look at a major city, so if you look at like Houston as the city, that's tier one. Chicago is tier one. Los Angeles is tier one. Tier two and tier three are the outside rings of those cities. So what you want to focus on are people that are in tier two and tier three because why? It's cheaper housing, cheaper market, right? Cheaper cost of living. And if you live in downtown Dallas, your pay has to be super high. But if you're in like the third tertiary market of Dallas, like your cost of living is drastically cheaper. So that's what you want to find. And on the next slide, you kind of already saw it. It explains like why you want to look for those type of markets, right? But basically, long story short, your $2,000 base goes a lot farther and the work doesn't change. So you want to leverage geography. And a big example of this is like when companies were going remote, you would actually essentially get a pay raise. So if I had a cousin that worked in San Diego. She made $200,000 a year in San Diego, which is not a lot of money nowadays in San Diego. But their company allowed full remote and you can move anywhere in the country. So what she did was she took her $200,000 base salary from her San Diego tech company and she moved to Indianapolis, right? Indianapolis, I think the average pay per year is 80 grand. So for her, that $200,000 salary that never changed, she actually got a higher pay raise because of geography alone. So that's what you want to focus on when you're looking for these people. And you can search that in Indeed, right? You can say like, where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from Indianapolis. Okay, that's someone that I'm interested in hiring because $2,000 goes a lot farther in there than hiring someone in a city. Does that make sense? I hope that like you understand that. And we'll talk more about that in the next slide. The next group, Facebook niche groups, there are sales groups all over the place. There are Facebook groups that hire. There are school communities that are hiring salespeople. I would not recommend this, in my opinion. This is probably my last choice in trying to hire. I think hiring people from Facebook groups can be absolutely toxic. And then channel four is referrals in your ecosystem. So you want to make sure that there's hungry people everywhere. There's hungry people in your network, broke prospects on your lead list who can't buy, but sounds great on the phone. So there are people that you know are super hungry. They don't have the money to buy your product or buy whatever, but they're super confident and they like to be on the phone. These are great people to bring. And if you guys do referrals, make sure you pay your referrals. Like imagine that you're like, hey, anybody that brings somebody to me in my network that I actually hire, I'll pay you $5,000. Right? Why do headhunters in corporate world get paid so much money to bring C-suite executives to your business? Because they're getting paid. They're getting paid 25, $50,000 to place a corporate C-suite executive. I know a girl, April Elias, she got paid like $500,000 a year just headhunting corporate executives. So normal people, can you imagine like if somebody was offering me 5 grand to give them 5 names that I know that are good salespeople, and if they get hired, I get paid 5 grand with no work? That's what motivates people, is paying them. So let's talk a little bit more about secondary, third markets in your area here, right? So target metros for 2K base. This is where your money is competitive and the talent already lives on the phone. Okay. San Antonio, Houston, Dallas outskirts, deep call center labor, low cost of living, straw English first phone work. Okay. These are some examples. Jacksonville, Tampa, Atlanta suburbs, not Atlanta proper, suburbs, Raleigh, Charlotte, high volume of inside sales backgrounds, comfortable and hungry, and they're not anchored to a $60,000 a year salary. Okay, you can find people that are very comfortable on a $36,000 a year salary with the ability to make more through commissions. Kansas City, I talked about Indianapolis. The Midwest is so underrated, bro. I used to live in Louisville, Kentucky, which is the Midwest. So underrated, right? Super stable, coachable, really big worth ethic first applicant pool. That's who you want. Like I love guys from the Midwest. Okay. Then you got the Mountain Belt, Salt Lake, Ogden. If you guys know what Ogden, that's in Utah, Phoenix. Phoenix is a little expensive, so you need to go out in the suburbs. But this is a massive Mormon belt. And the reason why I like to highlight the Mormons, some people say Mormons are weird or whatever the case may be, but they are hell of a salespeople. They get trained at a very young age to go door knock, right? They are all super good salespeople. So if you do hire some Mormons, they're going to be good on the phones, promise you. Okay. Set your job listing to be remote only and target these regions specifically. I promise you these are going to do really well. I had acquisition manager from Houston, right? That's my local market. She got ended up getting paid a huge upgrade working for this giant hedge fund. So I lost her a few months ago. And if you guys have been in the community for over a year, you already know how I feel about that, right? I've also hired guys in the Midwest, tons of talent. And then 5 times the application quality, same ad spend. You can always spend money on ads, right? So I'll go back this slide. The Facebook niche groups, honestly, what I mean by Facebook is running your own ads. So you can actually run ads to hire people. Okay. A lot of big companies do. All right. Sorry, it's a lot of stuff. And I'm sorry for adjusting the time to a later date tonight, which is probably why it's so lonely. So I appreciate you showing up and listening to this training today. But here's the hiring funnel. There's 5 different stages for a hiring funnel. And I wanted to show you these numbers because a lot of people don't do enough interviews. They'll interview like 5 people and say like, "Oh, I interviewed 5 people." And it's like, it's not really what you're looking for. Like you need to do more people, honestly. But here's how I would do it. So each cuts the field by the offer. You've heard them perform live at least 3 times, and we'll break it down like more and more as we go. But obviously, you'll post a job posting, and if you ever used Indeed before, you'll get like 100 applicants very easily. 100 is not it's not hard. You'll see just tons and tons of people applying. What we do, this is what I do, right? So this is from experience. You could do whatever you want, is that it is a requirement for them to send you a Loom video to apply. Okay. The Loom video or voice note is them reading a different script and answering questions. It's super quick. It's 60 to 90 seconds. This is the first time you hear them on the phone or on camera. This is like the step number one. You're gonna see so many people that don't do it. So that they're already gone. Like I don't even want to talk to you. But you'll have 50 people do it or 30 people do it. Boom. You get 30 people. Then what you do is you set a Zoom, a group Zoom. You could do 1 or 2 of them, and it's a group tryout. Hey, you have everybody on the group, and you guys are role playing with each other. I'm serious. This is crazy. It's like straight Hunger Games type stuff, and this stuff works. And also, it gives you an ability to assess a ton of people without burning a ton of time by doing a group setting. And you're going to see how they work with each other, right? If you have someone that has a negative attitude, you're going to see it like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. Like, great. You don't want them in the team anyway. You want someone that's able to communicate with other people that are strangers on camera, on Zoom, and feel comfortable talking in front of people. Like, if they feel uncomfortable, they're probably in the wrong industry. Okay. Now, you're going to narrow down your people to like the last 3 to 5 people. And these are one-on-ones. Okay. These are one-on-one with your teams or one-on-one with you as the owner. And each call is a 15 to 20-minute role play. So you're going to give them different scenarios and you're going to role play 2 or 3 times with them within a 15, 20-minute time. And they're going to be like, thanks for your time. I'll let you know tomorrow, like who we pick. And then last but not least, you offer 1 to 2 people, right? So that's how we do the hiring funnel. And if you guys haven't noticed, everything we do is a funnel, either with marketing, with sales, with hiring. Everything has to be systemized as a funnel so you can find the right person. Like you want to go through hundreds of people to find the 1 or 2 people that are actually going to make a difference in your business. And the reason why this takes so long is because you are literally picking someone that's literally going to hopefully change your business, right? And this would be a sales director role. If you do have a sales director, they would be the ones building out this hiring funnel and doing all the work, interviewing, all that stuff. And you're just getting updates, right? But if you don't have a director, it's going to be you that's doing this, unfortunately. But this is a way better way to systematize your hiring process. Oh, shoot. Is that it? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Going way too hard. Okay. So hire from live performance, not off the resume, right? How many guys that you know, including yourselves, has hyperinflated your resume? And that's okay, right? There's gonna be a ton of people that interview and apply, but you want to make sure that you're hiring from the performances that you see within the hiring funnel, right? The Loom video that they send you, the group talk, and then ultimately the one-on-one role playing. You want to grade off that. And then the last thing is more of trying to figure out if they're a culture fit, right? And you can see all this stuff here. We kind of talked about in the last slide, but I want to talk about the group tryout because that's a little confusing and a little different from everybody. Is you basically each runs a basic follow-up script against a fake seller for 60 seconds. And what you're listening to is the energy, how clear they do it, and then how coachable they are because you're going to give them feedback, right? And if they get upset by you giving them feedback, do you think that's someone that you actually want to hire? The answer is no. You're going to find out right there on the spot if they're going to be a dick to you or not. And if they're a dick to you in a group call like that, they're going to be a dick to you when you hire them. Okay? So get that out of the way. Okay. And in the voice note here, you kind of see, tell me about a time you ground, tell me a time about a time you ground through something repetitive. Anyone unwilling to record won't survive the job. It'll save you tons of hours. So as you can see, we are just building a little bit of barriers and also testing them along the way. That's not like stupid stuff. Like I was just talking to my wife about a job that, she saw about applying and they said attention to detail is super important. And they had like 20 different things about like how to reply back to this email. And I'm like, that doesn't show if they're going to be a good admin or operations analyst, right? You want to make sure that you're actually testing them on something that makes sense. And that's why we get them on these group calls and we do role plays. Okay. Here are some non-negotiables for hiring. Before you make the offer, there are three non-negotiables. If they're shaky and you feel weird about it, if you must trust your gut sometimes. And if you feel like this person doesn't fit these three things, then just move on. There's other candidates. Trust me, every day you're gonna get like 10 people on Indeed applying. I promise you. So if you feel like there's somebody that you don't want to hire, don't do it. Okay. So non-negotiable one loves to be on the phone. They have to love being on the phone. They have to love it, not tolerate it. They have to love it because the job is they're spending 5+ hours a day on the phone. So if they're not comfortable with that, don't hire them. Number two, they must follow the script. Whatever script you implement in your business, they must follow it. They cannot improvise this shit. Improvisation comes after 90 days of mastery. So when you hear me on the phone, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. Of course I can improvise. But when they're new, they need to stick to the process for at least 90 days so you can give them criticism and constructive feedback. If they're winging it, there's nothing that you can be able to grade to. Okay? Number three, show up on time. I've had people that don't show up on time, they're late, they got excuses. Punctuality predicts everything, right? If they can't show up to your meeting, do you think that they're following up with your leads on time? That is a number one pet peeve and a number one no-go. If you book a call with somebody, you better freaking call them on that call, or you text them and say, I'm running 2, 3 minutes late because I'm dealing with another seller in foreclosure, right? Does that make sense? Like, if you're not going to make the call at the booked time that you booked, you want to make sure that you tell them. It's just a common courtesy, the micro skills that people don't necessarily know. You can't coach those things, in my opinion. Okay. Punctuality is super, super important. Okay. Onboarding scripts and cadence. So the system carries the performance. Okay. The system carries the performance. You could take a random Joe Schmo off the street and make them into a killer if they have the right work ethic. And the person runs the system. Okay, the system runs the business, and a one person just runs the play, right? If you guys ever heard me or Alex Ramosi talk, it's run the play. Okay, the scripts, the cadence, the CRM, everything should be the same. And a so-called superstar without it flames out in 60 days, right? So if you don't follow the play, they're gonna burn out. So 30-day onboarding plan. Now I know a lot of people they pack it in with 14 days. You can make it 1 month or whatever, just for like lack of pressure. But foundations is everything. And then it's supervised production, right? No solo dialing in week one. This is the same shit with a VA. Like I tell you, like the first week, they should not be cold calling on themselves. Like it frustrates me that so many people hire cold callers or setters and like, hey, welcome to the team. Here's the list, here's the dialer, go after it, bro. There's got to be training. There's got to be a foundation that's built. So they know what to expect. They know the culture. The culture is a winning culture, and how to win is practice and following the system and running the damn play. That's the culture. You as the owner needs to establish that. So here's kind of how we break it down. Week one is foundations. Memorize the scripts, set up their CRM account, learn the dialer, understand the scorecard, what they're being graded on. Like, hey man, this is what you're being graded on. These are the metrics. Remember when you like signed the contract? Like, this is what we grade every day, and this is what you need to fill out every day after you dial. And this is how you use the dialer. This is how you use the system. Okay? Day 3 to 5, shadow and role play. Listen to live seller calls. 2 role play sessions per day. No one's dialing, right? Weeks 2 to 4, you're supervising them. They start dialing, you review 1 to 2 calls a day, and you role play every single day, right? By day 30, they should be crushing, at least knowing what to do. Does that make sense? You must take the time to teach them. If you don't teach them this, they're going to fail. And then you're going to blame them when really it was on you as the leader. So you have to understand, hiring someone takes work. If you're not willing to do the work, you don't deserve to hire that person. Ultimately, you don't deserve to run a business. So that's what I want to emphasize this. Okay. 4 scripts, right? We have all the scripts. The mother load script is the process, but we do have setter scripts as well, right? You have the old follow-up leads, right? These are old people on your system. You have the no-show follow-ups, the call me later reactivation. So the people are like, oh yeah, call me in 30, 60, 90 days, right? We'll give you all the scripts in this recording so you have it for your setters or you have it for your own teams. And then script number 4 is the confirmation. The day before, morning of, single biggest lever on show rate. I'm telling you right now, if you guys have been in the program, right, you've obviously had follow-up text messages or follow-up calls from me the day of we did a sales call. It's the same strategy that we got you into the inner circle or through REI inbox. We do all of the business stuff in our real businesses and we apply it to a wholesale company, right? Making sure the day of, right? If you have a book call with me, you probably seen a text message from my teammate saying like, "Hey, are you still good for your call at 9 a.m. tomorrow?" There's a reason why we do that. And then we text you again the next day. You're still good for our call today at 9 a.m.? Well, if it's 9 a.m., I'm not gonna text you. But if it's like a 5 p.m. call, you're gonna get a text message at 9 a.m. It's all automations that we build. It's like, hey, are you still good for a call? We want to do that on purpose. It is the biggest lever to get someone to show up on a call. Okay. All right. Cadence for a fresh lead. I know you guys were wondering about this. This is a rough example of how we conduct those 5+ touches in the first week a lead comes into your system. Then it's weekly attempts for 3 more weeks before it's cold. So this is how we label our leads. Okay. Day 1, 3 touches. First day is the most aggressive. We double dial you, we text you, 3 attempts throughout the day. Day 2, call on a text. Day 3, call on a text. Day 4, call. Day 5, call. Day 6, call. Day 7, closeout text. See what I'm saying? And then you go once a week for 3 weeks. If they have not responded to you in 4 weeks, what do you think is going to happen? They're not ever going to pick up for you. So what you do is you put them into a cold list. And then what do I say in all the other trainings that we've done in the past with emailing, texting, all that stuff is you do a quarterly reactivation campaign on all those leads one time and you move on. Okay. Mark them unreachable. And in our CRM, we have an unreachable box basically telling you this lead's never going to pick up. That's fine. You're going to have tons of that. Okay. Let me go back. But this is super important. This is how you make sure, especially if they're inbound marketing leads, if they're literally filling out a lead form or emailing you saying, please call me, you must hit them aggressively. So you make sure you get them on the phone. You must exhaust all options before you say, oh, this guy's unreachable. This is what a lead manager does. This is their life right here. This is their life. I want to emphasize this, guys. This is their life. Okay. All right. 4 pillars of nurture. All right. Availability, real call blocks, no administration during prime hours. What is a prime hour? If you guys remember, is from the setter training. You know, 9 to 11 a.m., maybe 1 to 3 p.m., and then 5 to 8 p.m., right? Those are prime times. You should not be screwing around with the CRM or doing training, all that stuff. Call times are call times. Speed. Fresh leads get touched as fast as humanly possible. So anything that comes in the new leads, right? If you ever watch the lead campaign or the lead nurture trainings that we've done in the past, new leads that come into the system, you must call, right? That's the first thing that lead managers do is call those brand new leads that come into the system. Number three, personalization, right? Reference the property, the situation, and the prior notes. So every time you call someone, the lead manager must understand what's happening. They need to understand the address and the seller's name and what's going on. So they're not asking questions that the seller has already said. Nothing burns rapport more than asking repetitive questions that they've already answered. Okay. And last but not least is volume. Enough attempts to give every lead a real shot. I want to let that sink in. You want to make sure that you give all the leads enough shots or enough attempts to say that you gave it a real honest shake to reach that seller. So, daily and weekly rhythm. This is like how you should train, all that stuff. This is an example of what we do in our business, right? What we personally do is we actually put the morning huddle with the daily role play. So you don't have to split these up in the day. You can actually knock out the huddle and the training. So what we do is the morning huddle, your acquisition manager, which used to be me, meet all the seller or meet all the acquisition guys, lead manage, whatever. We go through KPIs from the previous day and then your targeted numbers for the day for the next day and a quick learning or script tweak, right? You don't have to do that every week, every day, but this is the KPI stuff is really important. It's like, hey, bro, like what happened here? This is our goal for the day, right? Based off the goals for the team, how does your role affect the team goal, right? So everything's team oriented based off your company's goals and your company's KPIs, and that bleeds down into your acquisition team. If you don't know your team's philosophy or your team's goals, how can you tell your team what to do, right? And that morning meeting is to emphasize that. Once we do that, we take a little break, and then we actually go into the role playing, which I don't know where I put it, but I actually have a team building slide. I'll put it in here as well. But basically, we have different topics that we rotate every single day, every single week. Okay. End of day report, they must make sure that they're doing a short recap from your setters. So they need to fill out their scorecards. And if they need help with anything specifically tomorrow, they need to make sure that they tell you that either in Slack or through their metrics, whatever the case may be. They need to bring up what they want to talk about the next day. If there's a call specifically that they need help on, they need to identify that. Like we can't look through 100 leads a day. Like they need to tell us what they need help in. And that's what you need to emphasize to your employees. So this is your weekly stuff, right? So we usually do a once a week team sales training, and like that's the 12 different topics we have. We always pick one and we rotate those throughout the year. And then they get a weekly one-on-one coaching session, right? So the one-on-one coaching session is more of like leader development in terms of figuring out, what are they meeting their goals? Because at the end of the day, if they're not making enough money and they're not being held accountable, they're going to end up quitting or leaving. So that's the whole point of the coaching session. And then also, you want to make sure that you're giving them call reviews. So, like once a week, just give them a couple of call reviews and actually grade them using our grade sheet. So then you can identify like what they're doing wrong, if they have a certain habit. And then you want to identify that one habit so they can focus on the entire week. Don't give them 60 different corrections. Give them one major correction that they have to focus on throughout the week, and then that's what they work on. Okay. And then real quick, once a week, you do the leaderboard. So we have a leaderboard, right? Not to put anyone down, but to inspire competition and camaraderie. Like we have dudes that compete with each other to get more closings, to get more commissions, right? And we love that. We feed off that energy, and that's a part of the culture. Now, if you don't want to have that like culture, you can adjust it, but having your weekly KPI is super important because that also can instill some motivation in your team. Why do I say that? If your team is $10,000 away from a quarterly team bonus, don't you think those people are going to stay? Absolutely, right? Okay. Mindset shift. You're not hunting a unicorn, you're building an environment where a decent, coachable person becomes effective. You just need someone with good mentality, good emotions, good grit, and they can stay through the process. Okay. Here's the implementation checklist, right? Decide the role, your scorecard, finalize your comp structure, what you want to pay, write and improve your scripts, which I'll give you, define the follow-up cadence, set up the CRM, tracking reporting for your managers, build the 30-day onboarding program, which we've done for you as well, and then also the calendar and daily rhythm. And at the end of the day, you want to post your job. So, setter in production, closer with a full calendar. Just go run the play, run the checklist, and then we'll kind of show you guys what it looks like to run a employer. So here is Indeed here. I'm in the job section, so I'm going to click continue. And then I'm ready to post my first job. Okay. And you're going to see inside sales or or appointment. Actually, let's do inside sales. There you go. Boom. Inside sales. This is remote, fully remote. Are employees required to reside in a specific location? So you can actually put it in here if you want to be specific. Let's see if you can put different places. No, you cannot. Wait, let's see. No, you can only put something, but you can do no, and you can actually look. So target candidates in specific locations with multi-locations, right? Location reach. So this is where you can put your different cities. So let's do Kansas City, Houston, Texas, Ogden, Utah, right? Depending on your zip codes, right? And just hit continue. We're looking to hire 2 people. This is hiring timeline for this job. We're gonna hire somebody in the next week. Actually, it's up to you, 1 to 2 weeks, whatever. And then you can pay. This is how you can pay for ads on Indeed. You don't need to do that. Trust me, you'll get a ton of people. And you're gonna click next, and you're gonna do full time or part time, whatever you want. But if you do full time, it doesn't matter. But if you do part time, you can do fixed hours, a range of how many hours a week. Okay. But let's say you're just doing full time. You don't need to do anything. You hit next. And then what you want to do is you want to be honest with yourself. So like let's say $3,000 a month, right? Or $2,000 a month is 2,400. And let's say they're getting paid $3,500 a month in total with commissions. They're getting paid $36,000 to $45,000 per year. And you want to set like normal realistic expectations. So then they're not expecting to get paid $60,000 a year. You want to make sure that um, the pay is right. So then when they do join, um, it's a really nice thing to see when they get paid more. And obviously, our dream personally is we want to be able to like give health insurance and stuff. That's a big thing. But the thing is, like benefits is on the job training, professional development assistance. I wouldn't say flexible. It depends if you're part-time, but this is, and we also give paid time off as well. So if you're salary employees, we actually give them days off as well. You can determine how many days you want to do, but it's got to be something where it's kind of worth it. Okay. I actually gave you the job descriptions here that you can fill in. We have those job descriptions in the school community, and then you're literally just going to post it. You're going to do a quick review, right? Customized pre-screening. So let's just see. No, this is all weird stuff. You don't need to do that. Um, cool. Looks good. Okay, looks good. So let's look at these jobs here. Client services, English, multilingual will be preferred. Customer service, how many years of experience? You can select this, right? You can be very specific with this. Let's go down. Let's confirm. Let's do standard, right? Run continuously. Actually, let's run this for 30 days because you don't want to do this. Oh, this is sponsor. So we don't want to sponsor this. This is like paying for it, right? But yeah, this is how you pay for it. You can do it for free, but basically if you search by the location, like if you do like, hey, I want to search for guys in Indianapolis, whatever, you can actually turn this off and you can actually, you don't need to like sponsor it, right? You could do it for free as well. So that's how you do it. And then basically when you post your job, I don't want to post this job, is you'll see right here, like when you actually load this job, when you click on this job after you post it, you'll see a whole bunch of people, right? And you'll see people in the candidates tab on the left-hand side. You can see all of your new applicants that pop up in here and then you can actually screen them. And basically what Indeed does, I don't have a job post anymore, but what's sick about Indeed is it actually shows everybody that applies and it also gives them AI ratings basically based off their resume that matches like your certain sales things. So if you use our job prompt, it actually will pick up on certain things like sales experience, customer service. It will like give them 5 stars if they're like matching. And basically you can go in, read their resume and mark them on a short list. You can mark them for an appointment and you can tie your calendar, so your Google Calendar into here to see if you want to do a one-on-one appointment. But basically what I do is I pick all the people that I want and I tell them, hey, I send them the same message. Please send me a Loom video, like answering these questions. And whoever does it, good to go. Then we invite them over to the group Zoom and we give them 2 different Zooms. And the thing is like why I want to do this is because if I give them 2 different times and they say that they can't make it happen, then they're not a good fit for you. If they really want the job, then they're gonna jump on that Zoom. Does that make sense? So basically, that's how you do it. And then whoever passes the group assignment, then you want to do the one-on-one where you can book a Zoom with them, and then you do your one-on-one role plays with them, and then you can pick your best person. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the chat if this was a super helpful training. This is probably the more in-depth setter training ever that I've done. So I hope this was good. And just let me know in the comments how this is going. And I hope you guys learned something today. So appreciate it, guys.